to them in this one instance where we could go without a meal. He could have said that. But he doesn't. He says, we're going to take care of this. He understands we've got physical needs. God knows you have physical needs. Look at the Psalm passage in your bulletin. Beautiful. It says, God waters. It's picture language, but it's basically saying God takes care of it. God waters the mountains from his upper chambers. The earth is satisfied with the fruit of his work. He makes grass grow for the cattle and plants for man to cultivate, bringing forth food from the earth. Wine that gladdens the heart of man, and oil to make his face shine, and bread that sustains his heart. After the flood, do you remember what God told Noah? He said to Noah, he says, as long as the earth exists, there's going to be a time to plant, and there's going to be a time to harvest. There's going to be winter, there's going to be summer, there's going to be day, there's going to be night. What is he saying? He's saying, I'm going to take care of your needs. I'm going to give you everything you have to take care of your body and your soul. But I'm not neglecting your body. You have needs, and I'm going to make sure that you meet them. You look at the ministry of Jesus. He was not always like, in his Zen contemplative method, or a man or a being. He is with people. And he is constantly attending to physical needs. He's healing. He fed 5,000. He fed 4,000. Do you remember the wedding at Cana? He even turned water into wine. So we cannot say in any way that God just disregards our physical necessities. He provides for them, and he expects that we are going to take care of those necessities. He made us with those necessities. Now, here's the key. We need to remember, though, that he's the one that provides for us, and that's where it gets a little sticky, isn't it? Let's go back to the story. Jesus says to his disciples, well, where are we going to buy bread? And the disciples, they're racing for ideas, and, they come to a dead end. Why does he do that? Why do you think he asks that? Why doesn't he just say, okay, have everybody sit down and he provides for them? He's trying to teach the disciples something. And it's pretty clear. I'm the one who provides for you. Always remember that. And that's a hard thing, though, in our day and age to remember, isn't it? Because we work hard, we earn our money, we go and buy our food, and our clothes, and our cars, and our houses. And it's pretty easy to think what? Kind of like the Israelites in the reading. And by the way, Jeff, I love your analogies. Keep giving. I love them. In fact, half the time I can use them in the sermon. But what Jeff read today is so typical, isn't it? After 40 years of getting fed supernaturally in the desert, man is coming down every day. Whales are being sent into the camp every day. There was no doubt in the Israelites' mind, God is providing for us. Well, they get into the promised land, and they get into farming, and yeah, they're working dawn to dusk, and they're sweating, a lot of sweat ethic going into their farms. But what happens after 5 years? They look at their abundance, and what do they say? They say, my power and my strength and my hands have produced this wealth for me. All about me, right? I did it. It's like that old saying where the preacher goes up to this guy, this farmer, and he says to the farmer, God has certainly given you a wonderful farm. This farm is just gorgeous, Everything is just the way it ought to be, God's been good to you, giving you this good farm. And then the farmer says, yeah, you should have seen what it was like when it was only God's. And that's the kind of the way we think, right? Well, yeah, it was all weeds before. There was nothing here. I was the one that cleared the land and tilled the soil and took out the rocks and built the house and planted. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. But, there's always that but. What do you need to do all that? Gotta have the body. And you got to be pretty smart to be a farmer. You got to have the mind. And, even with irrigation, you still got to have rain. And And even with irrigation, you sure got to have sun. And you got to have a stable government, right? You got to have all sorts of things. I've talked to you about this fellow Sheldon, but it's such a stark example of how we depend on God. 19 years old, just graduated from high school, working at NIA as a clerk, a checkout clerk, gets off of work about 4 o'clock, gets on his motorcycle to go back to Waipahu, gets out of the parking lot, and the next thing he wakes up and he cannot move or feel anything from his neck down because he's blindsided by a car. Such quick changes in life and everything is over. He can't do anything for himself, pretty much. What does it tell us? It probably isn't going to happen to you, but it could. It only takes one, right? It only takes one. And everything can change. So what is the point? The point is that before we start beating our chests and saying it's all about me, and by saying this, I'm not denigrating hard work. I'm not saying, well, your hard work doesn't mean anything. Hard work is just a grateful response to God. I mean, if you give your child a great education, and you take care of him, for 25 years, you give him this good education, you give him money to start his business, and then he decides that he wants to just spend his time all on the beach and doesn't do anything, how are you going to feel? Aren't you going to be just a little bit disappointed that he did or she did not use all the abilities that you gave him or her to produce? Well, this is just the way God feels. He gives you this marvelous body. He gives us the wealth and the abilities, and He's just not used it. So the bottom line here is Jesus is just trying to say, okay, it's great that you can have these physical necessities met, and I want you to do that, but just put it in perspective. Remember where it all comes from. Now let's talk about supersizing. I know you've all been waiting for that. How do you fit in a McDonald's slogan with the feeding of the 5,000? Well, it's very true because there's a tremendous connection here. Let's think about this meal. What was it? It was bread and it was smoked fish. Now, we are not talking about a Sunday morning Waikiki hotel brunch. And that's important, because when we ask God for things, that's what oftentimes we're looking for. How many of us would have taken the bread and the smoked fish? I mean, this was not even individually wrapped. Think of the germs. Think of the taste. This is not a super-duper meal. What's the point here? Why doesn't God, or what, we don't even get dessert in this meal. Why is it so Spartan? Well, Jesus is teaching us something. He's teaching us it's your necessities that He promises to meet. Now, we've gone so far beyond that, haven't we? What have we done with the necessities of life? We have taken the necessities of life and we have made them experience-oriented. Eating is not about getting caloric content so we can go out and keep living. Eating is about the ambiance. It's about the colors on the plate. It's about the tastes. It goes way beyond that. And if it doesn't meet our need, we're upset with it. What is God's intention? We are to eat to live, and we live to eat. It's the same thing with clothes. We don't dress just to cover up our bodies for modesty's sake and for protection. I mean, it's very, very important for people like me to maintain my status and have that Kmart sticker on my pants. Or maybe, no, I got that one wrong. What is it? Okay. But it's about labels, isn't it? You got to have the right clothes on. Because why? Why do we wear clothes? We wear clothes to project an image. Now, is that necessity? We're concerned about, to do my shirt, match my pants, my tie.